Shoot.
Just for that, we're going to skip item number.
As there are no proclamations this evening, the first item on our agenda will be the public comment period. Madam Clerk, could you please read the criteria for public comment portion of the agenda?
This time is reserved to accept comments from the public on consent agenda items, closed session items, or matters not otherwise scheduled on this agenda. Unless otherwise directed by the mayor, speakers will have 3 minutes to comment. Direction to staff may be given. However, state law does not allow action to be taken by the City Council on matters not on the printed agenda this evening. Once the public comment period commences, no other speakers will be allowed to submit a request to speak form.
Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers
We
this
have
evening?
4 requests to speak.
4 requests, okay. No other requests will be taken at this time, and you can set the timer for 3 minutes. And Nicholas Antuzzi, okay, followed by Abraham Melendez, followed by Ernest Armenta. Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. First, I'd like to thank the council, Madam Mayor Patino, my fellow Santa Marians, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Nicholas Antuzzi. I've been a resident here in Santa Maria for approximately 5 years. I'm 34 years old, and this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. I chose to settle here mostly for the community. I bought a home here, and I plan to stay here. I was moved to speak today, and because I'm deeply concerned over our move from at-large elections to district-based elections and the process that we've taken to come to this point that we're at today. I recently found out about all this a couple weeks ago. I've watched every single city council meeting coming up to this point. I've read every article that I can get a hold of to further educate myself, and I have a few concerns. First of all, I've heard a number of people telling you all and urging you to make the right choice, to make the right decision. I happen to believe that for good people such as myself, such as I know you to be, and such as the majority of Santa Marians are, that making the right choice is fairly easy. We teach our children, do good for goodness sake, to avoid the pitfalls that come with bad decisions. Walter Scott once said, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." And that's an admonishment that functions in most bad decisions that we might make in our life, to avoid our trap of being tangled up with the consequences of our bad decisions. That was 1808. This is 2017. We're in an age of fake news, alternative facts, identity politics, virtue signaling, that makes it nigh impossible to know what the right decision is without a lot of thought. I happen to believe that this decision to remove from the citizens of Santa Maria the power to vote for at-large elections by popular vote is wrong. I'm sorry, I almost started speaking Spanish there for a second. I happen to disagree with a number of other people who have spoken throughout the past few weeks, but either way, it puts me in a bit of an adversarial relationship with all of you, seeing as we've gotten to this point. I think that the number of residents that voice concern over your choice to adopt Map H put them in an adversarial relationship with you as well. I'm here today to offer an amicable solution to avoid misgivings about your true intentions. Do not adopt Measure 2 or Ordinance 201706. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Antuzzi.
Appreciate
Thank you for being here. Abraham Melendez, followed by Ernest Armenta.
Hello, council members, Mayor Patino. As you might know me now, my name is Abraham Melendez, and I'm born here and raised in Santa Maria. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the disappointment, not only from myself, but from a lot of community members, a lot of youth, a lot of millennials. Disappointment in the fact that you guys decided to vote to protect your seats. The map that you guys voted on, well, 4 of you voted on, does not represent what Santa Maria really wants. It really takes from a lot of the Latino low-income neighborhoods on the west side, which, by the way, are the majority of Santa Maria. And when you put them next to wealthier, more educated, and more wealthy communities. I want to say that it is a great disappointment. I want to thank Councilmember Dr. Moats for being the only one that listened to the community. And I think that I have faith in Santa Maria and the youth that are going to be voting maybe for the first time, that they're going to elect representatives who will hopefully make this right and that will actually represent the community and not protect their own seats.
Ernest Armenta.
Ernest Stephen Armenta, City of Santa Maria. You know what? I miss this man right here. We had some good times, man. For ladies and gentlemen that don't know this, me and him, we would exchange some words, and you would think that, man, we'd be enemies strapping right now, Italian against a Mexican or Irish. But guess what? Friends, real friends, compadres, different views on issues. Able to look at each other in the eye and say, hey, you know what? Nothing but love, brother. Santa Maria first. But on item C, I look at this district, and I think that on both sides, we have the young man come up here and says that us on the west side that are lower educated, no. Then you have this other individual saying, oh, what's best for the community, but he don't know the history. I'm one of those burned out voters. I say, you guys, fire department, Santa Maria Police Officers Association, Local 220, all you staff and council members and everybody here, you keep on playing politics. Divide the city, chop it up, run it to the ground. It doesn't matter to me. My whole purpose here today is always, I'm not anti-agency, I'm pro-community. My purpose here is for us to start looking at our property taxes. First, we get our utility bill. And we ask ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, how would you like to never have another rate increase on your utility bill for the rest of your life as you live here in Santa Maria? And then the next question is, when you pull out your property tax, ask yourself, how do I benefit from the Santa Maria Valley Water Conservation District? How do I benefit paying into the Santa Maria Cemetery District? How do I pay into the Santa Maria or the landscape districts or lighting districts? You ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, what can I live without? See, ladies and gentlemen, you will not find Councilman Boyson, Etta Waterfield, Mike Cordero, or Councilman Moats or Dr. Moats. You won't find them advocating on your behalf on these issues. They're silent. You won't find the Santa Barbara Taxpayers Association advocating on this issue on your behalf. You won't find Local 220 Santa Maria Firefighters Association advocating on your behalf. You will not find Santa Maria Police Officers Association. Irresponsible, unable to be satisfied, self-serving bullies. That's the history here. So you go ahead and play politics. I'm going to say, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, you at home, it's time for us to protect our pocketbook, to rip the Count Etta Waterfield's hands, Jack Boyson's hands, Mike Cordero, to rip their hands off of your pocketbook, ladies and gentlemen. We're on our own. For you at home, I don't know if the camera's on me, but I thank you, and guess what? Next council meeting, we're going to do it all again for the rest of the remainder of this year.
Thank you, Mr. Armenta. Before we move on, Mr. Hayden, do you have any comments? Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar, Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 3?
Routine items are presented for City Council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. The consent calendar is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on request of council members.
Anyone have any pull?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just, item D, I need to abstain.
Abstain, okay. Nothing down here? Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
On item C, I'd like to pull that and have us vote individually on that one.
Okay. Okay, item D and C, okay.
So, Madam Mayor, I would make a motion for the approval of the consent calendar with the exception of items C and D.
Okay. Okay. I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats? Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
And Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye.
Then, Madam Mayor, I would move for the approval of item 3C.
Okay.
Second that.
Motion has been made to approve item 3C, and it's been second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats?
No.
And Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye.
And then, Madam Mayor, I would move for the approval of item 3D.
Second that.
Okay. Having heard a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Abstain.
And Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye. Our next item this evening is a regular business item. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider a resolution approving the addition of Bob Orrock's name to the resource list from which names are selected for city facilities and naming the city park at Westgate Ranch Bob Orrock Park.
And staff report is to be made by Recreation and Parks Director, Mr. Posada.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. If I could ask the Director of Public Works if he would go to item 4, and we have a little PowerPoint. Thank you very much. Tonight, before you, council members, is an opportunity to recognize the long-term service of Councilmember Bob Orrock by designating one of our city parks as Bob Orrock Park. There is a procedure established that is followed to put individuals' names on the list for naming of public facilities. That policy was included in your packet. The City Manager's Office and the Recreation and Parks Commission both reviewed the nomination recommendation for Mr. Orrock, and before you is your opportunity to approve this location. If we could switch to the next couple of slides there, Steve, please. So as you know, Councilmember Orrock was heavily involved in the All-America City effort and spent many years after that working closely on as the council's representative on the All-America City Committee. Westgate Ranch Park is located in Westgate Ranch Development, west of Blosser Road. This is the site with Liberty School at the front part of the roundabout there, and the park consists of about 5 acres to the west. There's also a small community building. Oh, sorry, Steve, if you could go back one. A small community building up in the upper section of the school that is part of the park, so we kind of have a little L-shaped configuration there. Sorry, up a little bit more. Right in that area, yes. This area is used for soccer, flag football, pickup games, anything like that happens in the neighborhood. We joint use that property with Liberty School, and they use our playground and open space during the school hours, and then we're open to the public for the rest of the day. Next slide, please. There's a couple more shots of the area. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Any requests to speak? I'd like to bring it back to the council for discussion and a motion. Sure, Ms. Waterfield?
And this question is for the Chief of Police. Has this guy been vetted?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Cordero.
were there any other names on the list? Were there, I mean, it just seems like he was here for a long time, but I've been here for over 40 years. I don't have a park. I mean,
Well, was his name just supposed to be put on the list? I didn't think we were going to do a park tonight. Isn't that just on the list?
And is Bob his real name? I mean,
Well, you look at it says the criteria, leadership in community affairs,
I don't know.
that's a
community
good point.
volunteerism.
Role model?
Oh, role model.
Oh, okay. Oh, you were a role model for me at one time, I forgot.
Community enrichment? Come on.
Only if we can call it Bobby Orrock.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Cordero.
I would be proud to make a motion that we name this park after Bob Orrock.
And I would be even prouder to second it.
And I'd like to third it. I'd like to discuss a little more. I'm going to vote for it, but anyway.
I think I saw the blood draining out of his head. Okay. I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2017-54 and a second. Any other discussion? We could probably go on all night, but is there any discussion, further discussion?
I say play ball.
Hearing none. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats? And Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye.
Start the 3-minute clock.
A license plate. 3 minutes.
Anything else you want to say?
Well, thank you very much, City Council, and, you know, in trying to think about if I was going to say something or what I could say in an hour's worth of time. It's humbling and embarrassing, I guess, from the fact that, you know, I never thought when I came to town 40-some years ago that, you know, this would be like this and I would be at this stage. But I got involved, as a lot of people have gotten involved, and I just want to say this is a collaborative of a lot of people. Council members, staff, the recreation and parks, and then all the volunteers from soccer and cycling that came, supported their children, supported their brothers and sisters and sons and daughters. And that's what this community is about. And, you know, I've always felt that that's it. That's kind of your duty to be involved and make things possible. And yesterday at the youth meeting that the mayor held and everybody was there, that's what it's all about. The families to provide the opportunities for their kids to participate in the Recreation and Parks Commission. Alex and, gosh, Teresa Rayburn and Jim Davis and some of those, you know, I've known for so many years, and I was involved before I got on the Recreation and Parks Commission and involved with those programs as a council member, and all the support that you all give to this community, to all areas of this community, the water, sewer, recreation, parks, roads, police, fire, that you do for everybody in this community. And I'll shout it till the day I die that you provide services. That's your job for everybody. There's no segment of this community that can't go to a park and barbecue and do other things. And speaking of that, thank you for the park. I just know that Larry is really excited. I don't know if you know his dog Charlie. He is so excited that Larry's going to bring Charlie over to the park and show his appreciation. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank the public. I really appreciate it.
Make sure the sign's high.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. And due to a previous engagement, we'll be sneaking out the back end.
So where's the party?
The next item is also a regular business item. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider the quarterly financial report for the third quarter of 2016-17 and a budget amendment report to approve personnel and operational changes to the 2016-17 budget.
Staff report is to be made by Finance Director Ms. Harvey.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff, and the public. Tonight, I will briefly present the quarterly financial report for the third quarter ended March 31st, 2017. I'll be primarily reviewing the general fund and enterprise funds. The beginning fund balance of $10,071,910 is the final audited balance as of July 1st, 2016. Concerning city revenues, through the third quarter of this year, sales tax receipts are $1.7 million greater than the third quarter last fiscal year. However, this increase is directly related to the end of the triple flip. You may recall that under the triple flip, 1/4 of the city's sales tax revenues were retained by the state to guarantee their bond payments, and later in the year, the state reimbursed the city through property tax revenues that were meant for the schools. What that means is that this year's third quarter sales tax receipts are 100% of sales tax earned through March of this fiscal year, compared to about 82% of the sales tax earned in the first 9 months of 2015-16. Had the triple flip not occurred, the quarter-to-quarter increase would be 3.6%, or about $550,000. NHIS revenue has exceeded projections by 13.1%, or $170,000, with an annual budget of about $1.3 million. This compares to receipts through the third quarter of last year of approximately $927,000. That is an increase of over $58,000 or 58%. This significant increase is due to Windset Farms excavation project that occurred primarily in the first quarter. And in December, the city was notified by Chevron that they will not be hauling any NHIS from their Guadalupe project in calendar year 2017. This, coupled with the very wet winter, has caused NHIS revenues to fall from a 3-month average of $418,000 per month during the first quarter to an average of $35,000 per month in the second and third quarters. Staff expects this trend of lower NHIS revenues to continue for the next 15 months and anticipates that NHIS revenues will only be about $400,000 in 2017-18. On a positive note, permit revenue is at $3.9 million, or 128.4% of budget, and is $1.7 million greater than received at the same point in time in 2015-16. General fund expenditures are at 70.4% of budget and are currently on course to realize the $1.8 million in salary savings included in the 2016-18 budget to help address the budget deficit. However, our expenditures are still expected to exceed our revenue estimates by about $400,000. Turning to Measure U, revenues through the third quarter are slightly under budget at 73.4%, or $3.2 million. Expenditures are at 76.5% of budget, or $3.5 million. Through 3 quarters of the fiscal year, overall Measure U expenditures exceeded revenues by approximately $257,000. Based on the current pace of expenditures over revenues, Measure U fund balance will be exhausted before the end of fiscal year 2017-18. To address this variance, staff is proposing a budget amendment for council's consideration to move fire overtime costs from Measure U to the general fund. The intent of this action will bring expenditures more in line with revenues. As for the enterprise funds, the water and wastewater fund revenues exceeded expenditures by $3.6 million. Expenditures included the semi-annual debt service payment of $4.6 million of principal and interest on the 2012 refunding bonds. For the solid waste fund, revenues exceeded expenditures by $715,000. In conjunction with the third quarter financial report, staff recommends 4 budget amendments for council's consideration. That concludes my staff report, and I'm available for any questions council may have.
Any questions of the council? Mr. Boyson?
Ms. Harvey, just, you mentioned that you anticipate that for the year, expenses will exceed revenues by about $400,000.
That's
Those are our, not including our leaf transfer.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
No questions? Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence?
We do not have any written
Do we have any
correspondence.
requests to speak?
We have one request to speak.
Mr. Armenta?
Marina Stephen Armenta, City of Santa Maria. Let me see if I got this right. In 2012, we passed Measure U, somewhere around that year. What happened is the fire department came to the city and requested that they needed a new fire department for the east side of the freeway where I live at, because there was none. And the council at that time told the fire department, we didn't have no money. We're not going to go borrow no money, and we don't have no money for you. Tough luck. So the fire department came to us, the taxpayer, and said, hey, can you go with less and give a little bit more so we could build a fire department? We said yes. I was one of those anti-tax earners. I said, yes, I'll support it. So, but it turned into, it turned into not only for the fire department, then it turned into for a roof for the police department. So my question is, Mrs. Harvey, maybe I'm mistaken, but it says right here that fire department overtime, Measure U was funding the fire department overtime? Yes?
Measure U is funding the fire station, one fire station within the city. So it's the operational costs associated with that one fire station, and overtime is part of the operational costs.
Payroll.
Yes,
Payroll
that
for
is
the
correct.
employees. Mr. Hayden and Mrs. Patino, that ain't what I voted for, but I understand that's what's happening. And I understand now you're going to transfer that to the general fund. But again, I feel ripped off just on that issue, Mr. Hayden. That is, I did not pay extra tax for payroll. That was your responsibility as an institution. To find the money someplace else, we didn't vote for that. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, again, you hear it. Expenditures. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to the Mrs. Harvey's report and from this council, is the council is spending more than what they have. Expenditures. That means ladies and gentlemen, this is layman's terms, reckless and irresponsible expenditures. This is why I say look at not as individuals, as a taxpayer, Mr. Boyson. My purpose here is not to impugn your character or your honor or your integrity. No way. I have no issue with that. But as a unit, all 4 of you together, excluding Ms. Patino, she has a pardon, that I think that it's time for new council members. I think we just had enough. I remember on this issue, I did not go without and pay support Measure U for payroll of any city employee, just for the building. Thank you very much.
You know, I really need to respond to this and make it very clear, but you can sit down, Mr. Armenta.
Are you responding to me?
Yeah, because the overtime expenditures of $482,000 incurred as a providing services to other local and state agencies. And we're getting back $540 in mutual aid revenues. So that's going to clear that up because we get that back. We've had to go out and help other agencies, and other agencies come and help us when we need help.
And they're going to reimburse us, great.
Yeah.
But that ain't with the language inside her report says Measure U. Now, me and you were here.
That's right.
We were here supporting this. So, Mrs. Patino, I understand my time is over. But the language which she reported is that it was coming from Measure U, and that ain't what we voted for. We kind of feel ripped off. We supported.
Thank you, Mr. Armenta, but I just wanted to clear that up so the public knew that that wasn't spent that way. Thank you.
That wasn't spent that way.
That the money that we spent for salaries and for overtime is going to come back to us. $540,000 is coming back to the
For
city.
reimbursement from other.
In mutual aid, yes.
You got it.
Any questions from council? Mr. Hayden, did you have any comments you wanted to make?
Madam Mayor, I was trying to find on the website the actual language for Measure U, but the language that went forward, if my memory serves me correct, was a question before the voters whether or not they would support a 1/4 cent use tax to pay for 911 emergency calls for service, including but not limited to police response, fire response, levee repairs, and other essential city services for at-risk youth. In the determination of the City Council back in 2012, they identified 7 police officers, 5 police sergeant positions, 1 commander, and then also the operating costs associated with Fire Station number 5. Where we run into a quagmire is that some of the personnel associated with Fire Station number 5, they go out on mutual aid calls for service, brush fire calls for the state of California. We get reimbursed for that. However, we don't have a mechanism to put that revenue back into Measure U. We put that in the general fund. And so we felt it would better be for accounting practices to identify any of the overtime. Since Measure U is a subset of the general fund, we might as well put all of the expenditures for overtime in the general fund rather than in Measure U. That brings it within the appropriation authorization, and that way the revenues do balance with the operating expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden.
And Madam Mayor, if I
Mr.
could,
Boyson.
just to add on to that, I'd just like to point out too that Measure U was always only going to be used for operating expenses. It was never to be used for the building of the fire station itself. Those funds were provided by ARA funds that during the recession that we happened to have a shovel-ready project and qualified for federal money at no cost to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, I'd like to bring
Can I ask one quick
sure,
question?
Dr. Mose.
Mr. Hayden, suppose that Measure U wasn't underfunded, there was plenty of money in there. Would you still take the fire overtime and put it in the general fund?
From an accounting perspective, we probably would. And the reason why is because in the general fund, even though we exceed the appropriation authority in the fire department for overtime, we have revenues that come directly in to the general fund to reimburse that overtime, albeit it's not, timing isn't the best because we incur the cost, say, right now in May, we bill for it in June, it goes through the state process. By the time that revenue comes back to us, we're not going to get reimbursed until September or October. So we incurred the cost in one fiscal year, we're getting the revenue in another fiscal year. And so it would be easier just to shift that over to the general fund because we're getting revenue not only for fire station number 5, but also station 1 through 4.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the council for any further discussion or questions. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I would move for the approval of resolution number 2017-55.
Second. Okay, a motion has been made to adopt resolution 2017-55, and there's a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson.
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
Councilmember Moats. And Madam Mayor Patino.
Aye. Next item is a report by our city manager, Mr. Hayden.
Thank you, Mayor Patino, members of the City Council. Your next City Council meeting will be on June the 6th. That'll be 3 weeks from tonight. We have an extra Tuesday during the month of May. We will have 2 presentations. One is a retirement resolution for Lieutenant Mark Norling from the Santa Maria Police Department. He'll be retiring. And then we have the Going the Extra Mile Award. We do that on a semi-annual basis. We'll be providing that award to one of our utilities employees, Dave Portwood. We have a number of consent agenda items. One of them is the Buena Vista Park Award of Bid, along with the monument sign north of town award of bid. And then we have a couple first readings, changes to the municipal code. One of them deals with permits in the park, wanting to use the parks and issuing permits. The other one is taking a look at the duties and responsibilities of the mayor. With the passage of the district elections, we've been recommended to take another look at the mayor's office and the duties and responsibilities associated with that. So we'll be taking a look at those two items. That concludes my report.
Okay, we will talk about then oral reports by council members. Mr. Cordero, we'll start with you.
Okay. On the 10th, I believe, we went to that C3H, wasn't it, Etta? C3H. The 11th, okay, sorry. It was an interesting meeting. I left with some questions for Chuck, and he's supposed to be getting back with me. But there's some changes due to take place with the C3H funds. They're trying to capture more funds, new funding sources that he's going after. On the 12th, I attended the UCSB Econ presentation out at the Radisson, which was also very interesting. There's a lot happening and a lot coming our way in the not-too-distant future. On the 15th, I attended the Mayor's Task Force on Youth Violence, and I think I said this at the last meeting. I'm really pleased with how that is going and the buy-in that so many people are involved with in making that presentation. It seems to be going quite well with a lot of people in the room that are bona fide stakeholders. And today I attended the social function over at the Santa Maria Inn celebrating their 100th birthday, which was very well attended, and I was proud to be invited to that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Dr. Moats?
Okay, on May 6th, I went to a fundraiser for the Elks Rodeo Queen at Santa Maria Country Club, which was the Kentucky Derby Party, where our horse didn't win. On the 11th, I went to the Santa Maria Unitime Kiwanis Scholarship Fair. On May 12th, I also attended the UCSB Santa Barbara Forecast. Again, on the 12th, I went to the Kiwanis Self-Esteem Fundraiser. This time it was a poker tournament, but I made it to the second round of the softball. And finally, on the 13th, I went to the Rotary Farm Party, another fundraiser. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Waterfield?
Madam Mayor, on May 3rd, I attended St. Louis de Montfort's Career Day, and we got an opportunity to talk to a bunch of 7th graders and 8th graders and what they wanted to do with their life, and that was refreshing and interesting. Attended the Elk Citizen of the Year dinner on May 3rd as well. May 4th, I attended the Villa del Sol groundbreaking. That's one of Mr. Tobe's projects, and it's senior housing, and it's going to be absolutely beautiful. After that, I attended the National Day of Prayer, and on that same day, I attended the LAFCO meeting. On May 10th, I attended the Discovery Museum unveiling of the launching of Vandenberg Air Force Base at Discovery Museum, and you really need to go down there and see that because it's going to be really exciting for the kids. May 11th, I attended the C3H Policy Council meeting with Councilman Cordero. May 12th, I attended the Veterans Treatment Court graduation. A great group of men graduated. That was fantastic. On May 14th, on Mother's Day, I was invited to the Santa Maria Foursquare Church, and they were so appreciative of the city. They had me present the $10,000 grant that they had got through the city of Santa Maria for their playground. And their campus is going to be an open campus. It's on the corner of Alvin and Courier, and it's going to service all the children around that area. But they sang the praises of Mr. Posada, helping them attain that grant. And I just want to deliver a big thank you from Santa Maria Foursquare Church. They certainly appreciated that. On May 15th, I attended a meeting with the principals of the GDC project, and that's the project where the conserved gas station is on the corner of Betaravia and Bradley. They're wanting to make some changes there. And attended Santa Maria Inn's 100th birthday. And that's it.
Mr. Boise.
Madam Mayor, no reportable action, but I would like to point out that over the last couple of weeks, I have been exploring another sister city opportunity, this one with La Quinta.
I'm disappointed.
La Quinta, California, and it looks very promising, but will probably require several more visits before I can cement that relationship.
Promises. Okay. May 3rd, I attended the Workforce and Literacy Initiative Forum, the Wally Forum. On May 4th, I spoke at the Via del Sol groundbreaking ceremony, another Michael Tobes project that we will be so pleased to have here in Santa Maria. And then attended the National Day of Prayer, the 20th year celebration. Later that afternoon, I presented certificates at the 2017 Youth Impact Awards. On May 5th, I presented the Lions Club proclamation. It's really interesting. The Lions Club, and they meet on the weekend, so this is a Saturday, and they had me at a certain time, and then they said, and then they moved it up about a half an hour, but they meet all day long, so they just have you come in at that time and make your presentation. And so I'm sitting there, and Steve Lavanino, our supervisor, comes in, and he thinks I thought I was late when I got there. He thinks he's late when he gets there, but that's the way they arrange it. And it works out fine. It's just that we all think that we're late when we get there. On May 8th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce Transportation Committee meeting with Greg Hart, gave a real good rundown of our trip to D.C. and what we expect from the state and the monies that we'll be getting for our roads. May 9th, I attended Rotary. On May 11th, presented the Mayor's Award at the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce Salute to Tourism. On May 12th, I attended UCSB Economic Forecast Project and the funeral mass for Henry Grennan, a dear friend to all of us and a Parks Commissioner, and Downtown Fridays. May 13th, I attended the Steel Magnolias at the Santa Maria Civic Theater, which was a fundraiser for League of Women Voters. May 15th, the Mayor's Task Force on Youth Safety meeting, a good meeting, lasted 2 hours, and everyone was very concise, and so we got through it in 2 hours. May 16th, today, did the Ben Hayes radio show, attended Rotary, and went to the Santa Maria Inn for their 100th year anniversary celebration with people dressed at the time.
And the cars that were
and
parked
the cars
out front.
parked out. That was fun. Okay. The City Council will now recess to a closed session. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of the closed session?
The City Council will immediately recess to a closed session for a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Section 54956.9 of the Government Code, City of Santa Maria versus Michael Cohn, case number C081190, California Court of Appeals, 3rd Appellate District.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's meeting. Good night.